이 작품을 안 할 이유가 없었던 것 같고 또 워낙에 훌륭하신
Lovely viewers, welcome back to another deep and emotional storytelling moment on our channel. Today, we are diving into one of the most heart-wrenching yet revealing moments in the world of Korean entertainment. The day song Hye Kyo finally decided to break her silence and open up about her hidden struggles during her marriage with Song Joong-ki. For years, fans have speculated, whispered, and wondered about what really happened behind the glamorous smiles and fairy tale-like appearances of one of Korea's most beloved former couples. And now, we finally hear from Hye Kyo herself. Grab your snacks, sit comfortably, and let's go on this interactive journey together, because this is not just news, it's an exploration of love, heartbreak, and the courage to finally speak the truth. When we think about Song Hye Kyo and Song Joong-ki, we think about that magical time when they captivated audiences worldwide with their roles in Descendants of the Sun. Their chemistry was undeniable, so strong that it seemed impossible it was only acting. Fans remember the way Joong-ki would look at her on set, the way Hye Kyo smiled shyly but warmly at his jokes, and the way their hands seemed to find each other naturally, even when the cameras weren't rolling. It was a dream come true for drama lovers when that chemistry translated into real life, with the pair announcing their relationship and then shocking the entire world with a wedding that could have been scripted for television. But as we know, reality is often harsher than fantasy. So why did things go wrong? Why did their marriage, which seemed like the perfect ending to a fairy tale, fall apart so quickly? For the longest time, Hye Kyo kept quiet. She avoided interviews, brushed off questions, and allowed the world to assume whatever it wanted. Some fans sided with her, believing she was wronged. Others sided with Joong-ki, assuming he had reasons for his sudden announcement of divorce. But now, after years of silence, Hye Kyo has revealed that beneath the stunning wedding photos, the luxury celebrations, and the loving smiles for the public, there was a story of hidden struggles. A story of emotional distance, misunderstandings, and the heavy pressure of living a marriage in the spotlight. Imagine being in her shoes, lovely viewers. Imagine being one of the most recognized actresses in Asia, admired by millions, and yet having to carry the weight of loneliness inside your own marriage. In her revelation, Hye Kyo admitted that one of the hardest parts was the expectation. Fans expected perfection. The industry expected consistency. Everyone wanted them to remain that glowing fairy tale couple. But behind closed doors, she confessed that she often felt unseen and unheard. Joong-ki, on his part, was juggling his rising career, military service, and the pressure of being married to someone as high profile as Hye Kyo. One of the most shocking truths she revealed was how communication slowly broke down between them. In the beginning, she shared they would talk about everything: work, dreams, the future. But as time went on, the conversations became fewer. Little disagreements, instead of being resolved, turned into walls of silence. For Hye Kyo, who thrives on emotional connection, this silence felt suffocating. She described nights when she would sit at their home, waiting for him to open up, waiting for him to simply ask how she was feeling. But instead, there was distance, an emotional chasm that kept growing wider, no matter how hard she tried to close it. Lovely viewers, can you imagine the pain of lying beside someone you love deeply, but feeling like they are miles away from you? She explained that sometimes she would cry quietly, not wanting him to notice, because she didn't want to be a burden. She didn't want the world to know their struggles, so she carried the weight alone. This is something many people in relationships can relate to. The fear of vulnerability, the fear that if you show your true pain, you'll be judged or abandoned. For Hye Kyo, being in the public made this even harder, because every single move she and Joong-ki made was scrutinized by fans and the media. What struck fans most about her confession was the tenderness with which she spoke about Joong-ki, even while revealing her pain. She didn't blame him. She didn't attack him. Instead, she admitted that they were two people caught in circumstances bigger than themselves. She acknowledged that Joong-ki had his own struggles, his own battles that he didn't always know how to share. But in the end, the silence between them became too heavy, and the love that once felt unshakable started to crumble. She also spoke about the loneliness of being misunderstood. When the divorce was announced, Joong-ki's side moved quickly, releasing statements that painted him as decisive and strong. Meanwhile, Hye Kyo stayed quiet, absorbing all the criticism, the rumors, and the harsh words that people threw at her. She revealed that she read comments online late at night, sometimes in tears, wondering why people couldn't see that she was hurting too. She admitted that she felt judged not just as a wife, but as a woman who had failed to keep her marriage together. That weight, she said, was almost unbearable. But perhaps the most powerful part of her revelation was when she admitted that she stayed silent not because she was weak, but because she wanted to protect what little dignity remained between them. She didn't want their private fights, their personal struggles, to be dragged into the spotlight. She wanted to respect the love they once shared, even if it had ended. She wanted to remember Joong not as an enemy, but as someone who had once made her heart race, someone who had once been her closest companion. Lovely viewers, think about how strong that makes her. It takes courage to endure criticism, to swallow rumors, and to carry pain in silence. And it takes even greater courage to finally break that silence, to speak openly about the hidden struggles without bitterness. For many fans, hearing Hye Kyo's voice in this way has brought closure. It has also brought understanding because behind the glitz and glamour, she is a human being who experienced heartbreak just like anyone else. She also revealed that her healing process wasn't easy. After the divorce, she admitted to having moments of deep self-doubt. She asked herself repeatedly if she was enough, if she could have done more, if perhaps she had expected too much. But with time, she learned to let go of self-blame. She learned that a marriage requires both people to fight for it, and sometimes, no matter how much love there is, timing and circumstances simply don't align. She embraced her healing through work, through traveling, and most importantly, through rediscovering herself outside of being someone's wife. Fans were deeply moved when she confessed that during the marriage, she sometimes lost sight of who she was. She gave so much of herself to making it work, to living up to expectations, that she forgot her own needs, her own dreams. Post-divorce, she decided to reclaim that identity, to remind herself that she was more than her marriage, more than the rumors, more than the heartbreak. And slowly, she rebuilt herself into the confident, radiant woman that the world now admires again. Lovely viewers, this story is not just about Song Hye Kyo and Song Joong. It is also about resilience, about the strength it takes to move on after love has failed, about the courage to admit that you struggled, and about the healing that comes from finally speaking your truth. For years, fans speculated, but now we know. The struggles were real, the pain was real, but so is her strength. As we close this chapter together, let's reflect on how even the brightest stars can face darkness, how even the most beautiful love stories can end in tears, and how even in heartbreak, there is room for growth and hope. Song Hye Kyo's revelation is a reminder to all of us that no relationship is perfect, and sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is to walk away and heal. Lovely viewers, I want to hear your thoughts. Do you believe Song Hye Kyo's silence was an act of strength, or do you wish she had spoken earlier? Can you relate to the feeling of carrying struggles silently, just to protect someone else? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because your voice matters, and this is a safe space to share. And remember, love may not always last forever, but the lessons it teaches us surely do. When Song Hye Kyo bravely opened her heart to share her hidden struggles, she wasn't just revealing the cracks in her marriage to Song Joong. She was also giving a voice to countless people who've experienced silent pain in their relationships. And as we go deeper into this continuation, I want you to feel included, to reflect, and to see how these revelations connect to all of us as human beings navigating love, heartbreak, and healing. One of the most striking parts of her continued confession was the way she described the pressure of perfection. She admitted that when she first married Joong, she felt like the world was watching her every move, waiting for her to make mistakes. And so, she tried harder. She tried to be the perfect wife, the perfect partner, the perfect woman. But perfection is a cage, lovely viewers, one that suffocates slowly. She shared that this constant need to appear flawless to the public actually robbed her of the freedom to show her vulnerability at home. Instead of saying, "I'm hurt" or "I need you," she would swallow her feelings, afraid that if they became public, they'd be twisted into scandals. Imagine, dear viewers, living in a house filled with silence because both partners are afraid to truly speak their hearts. Joong, she said, was also struggling. He had his own battles with expectations, with balancing his career and their marriage, with being the man the world expected him to be. But rather than leaning on each other, they drifted. Each one fought their battles alone, and that loneliness became unbearable. Another revelation that left fans heartbroken was when Hye Kyo admitted that she sometimes felt invisible in her own marriage. As much as Joong loved her in his own way, she said, there were moments when she felt like he didn't really see her. Have you ever felt that way, lovely viewers, like you're standing right in front of someone but they're looking past you, lost in their own world? That was her reality. She would cook meals, wait for him after his long days, smile for the cameras, and yet at night, she would lie awake wondering if her love was enough to keep him close. But despite all these struggles, Hye Kyo made it clear that her love was genuine. She wasn't pretending for the public. When she married Joong, she truly believed in their love story. She believed they could overcome anything. And perhaps that's why the silence hurt her even more, because it felt like the love she had given with such purity was slowly slipping away, unnoticed. Lovely viewers, this is where her story takes on an even more emotional turn. After the divorce announcement, the pain wasn't just about losing Joong. She said it was also about losing the dream she had held onto so tightly. She had envisioned growing old together, supporting each other through thick and thin, building a family. And suddenly that dream shattered. It wasn't just the marriage that ended. It was the future she had imagined. That loss, she confessed, was one of the hardest parts to accept. Now, here's where things get really human and relatable. She talked about the anger she felt, not towards Joong personally, but towards the situation. Anger at herself for not speaking up sooner. Anger at the media for twisting narratives. Anger at the fans who chose sides without knowing the full story. But most importantly, anger at the fact that she had sacrificed so much of herself for love, only to feel empty at the end. This raw honesty shocked many, because we often see her as calm, graceful, and composed. To hear her admit to anger was refreshing. It made her real. And yet, despite all of this, she didn't let bitterness consume her. She said she chose to let go, because holding on to resentment would only keep her trapped in the past. Instead, she focused on healing. She found comfort in her friends, in traveling, in her projects, and in rediscovering the parts of herself she had neglected. She admitted that for the first time in years, she felt free to laugh without pressure, to cry without shame, and to live for herself rather than for an image. Lovely viewers, can you feel the strength in that? Can you see how breaking her silence wasn't just about revealing struggles, but also about reclaiming her own story? For so long, others spoke for her. Others speculated, judged, and assumed. But now, she has spoken for herself, and in doing so, she has given us all a lesson in the power of owning your truth. And let's not forget the impact this has had on fans. Many people have come forward saying that her courage to open up helped them reflect on their own lives. Some admitted they, too, stayed silent in toxic relationships, afraid of judgment. Others said her words gave them the push to finally walk away from situations where they were unseen or unheard. Isn't it powerful, lovely viewers, how one person's story can ripple out and touch the lives of millions? But what about Joong in all of this? Hye Kyo made it clear that she doesn't wish him harm. She acknowledged that he has moved on with his life, and she genuinely hopes he finds happiness. That level of maturity, wishing well for someone who once hurt you, takes strength. It's not easy, and many people might wonder how she can do that. But she explained it simply. When you love someone truly, even if it ends, a part of you will always want them to be happy. That single statement melted the hearts of fans, reminding everyone that love, no matter how it ends, leaves behind traces of kindness if you let it. As we continue to reflect, lovely viewers, think about this. How many of us have carried silent struggles, just like Hye Kyo? How many of us have smiled for the world while crying in private? Her story is not just celebrity gossip. It's a mirror. It shows us the importance of communication, of vulnerability, and of being brave enough to admit when things aren't okay. It shows us that silence might seem protective in the short term, but in the long run, it eats away at the love you're trying so hard to preserve. Now, imagine the weight lifted off her shoulders when she finally spoke her truth. Imagine the relief of no longer having to pretend, of no longer carrying the pain alone. That's what we're witnessing right now. The rebirth of a woman who has gone through fire and come out stronger. Lovely viewers, I want you to think about this as we move forward in our conversation. If you had the chance to sit with Song Hye Kyo right now, what would you tell her? Would you thank her for her honesty? Would you share your own struggles? Would you simply remind her that she is loved, not for being perfect but for being real? Because at the end of the day, This continuation of her story isn't just about what happened in the past. It's also about where she's going. It's about healing, growth, and the quiet strength of a woman who refused to let heartbreak define her. And as fans, as supporters, as human beings, we can all take inspiration from that. After years of silence, fans wondered, why now? Why did Hye Kyo finally choose this moment to open up about her hidden struggles with Song Joong-ki during their marriage? She explained it beautifully. Time had given her the courage. Immediately after the divorce, she wasn't ready. The wounds were too fresh, the media too harsh, and her emotions too raw. But as the years passed, she gained perspective. She realized that speaking her truth wasn't about reliving the pain. It was about releasing it. She wanted to show others that it's okay to talk about struggles, that silence doesn't have to be the final answer. Lovely viewers, think about how often we keep things buried inside. We tell ourselves it's better to stay quiet, better not to disturb the peace, better not to risk being judged. And yet, that silence becomes heavy, doesn't it? It grows like a weight in the heart, pressing harder each day. For Hye Kyo, silence meant carrying the burden of public opinion, the sting of judgment, and the ache of loneliness. Breaking that silence was like breathing freely again, like stepping into the sunlight after years in the shadows. Her continuation of the story also revealed something deeply moving. She doesn't regret the marriage. She doesn't look back with bitterness or wish it never happened. Instead, she sees it as a chapter in her life that taught her lessons she could never have learned otherwise. She admitted that the struggles, though painful, shaped her into a stronger woman, someone more self-aware, more compassionate, and more resilient. Isn't that beautiful, lovely viewers? To turn heartbreak into wisdom, to turn pain into growth. That's a rare kind of strength. But here's where her story becomes even more inclusive, because it's not just her story, it's ours too. She said she wanted her confession to serve as comfort for anyone who has felt trapped in silence. She knows that many fans look up to her, not just as an actress but as a role model. And by admitting that even she, with all her fame and success, went through struggles in love, she hoped to remind everyone that it's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to stumble, to hurt, and to heal. Lovely viewers, can you feel how liberating that is? Imagine someone you admire so much saying, "I went through this too. You're not alone." That's the gift Hye Kyo gave to her fans by opening up. She also spoke about how the media played a role in intensifying her pain. When Joong-ki's side of the divorce became public first, the narrative was one-sided. People began to speculate, to blame, to throw accusations without knowing the truth. Hye Kyo said that during that time, she felt voiceless, as though her silence meant guilt. But now, by finally telling her side, she has reclaimed her voice. She said that the truth doesn't erase the past, but it does give her peace. And in that peace, she has found strength to move forward with grace. And let's not forget, lovely viewers, that her silence wasn't weakness. It was a choice she made to protect what little remained of their dignity as a couple. But choosing to speak now is another choice. A choice to protect herself, her heart, and her truth. That's the beauty of her journey. Every step she's taken has been rooted in dignity and grace, even when she was hurting inside. Now, what does this mean for her future? That's where things become truly inspiring. Hye Kyo has been pouring herself into her career again, embracing roles that challenge her, roles that allow her to express the depth of emotion she has lived through. Fans who watched her recent performances say they can feel the authenticity in her acting, as though she's channeling her real-life experiences into her art. And in a way, isn't that the mark of a true artist? To transform pain into beauty, to take personal struggles and turn them into performances that move millions. Lovely viewers, I want you to reflect with me. How many times have you turned your pain into strength? How many times have you found light in the middle of darkness? Song Hye Kyo's story reminds us that heartbreak is not the end. It can be the beginning of something new, something more powerful, something more authentic. And what about Song Joong-ki? Hye Kyo was careful in her words. She didn't attack him, nor did she glorify him. She simply acknowledged that they were two people who loved, who struggled, and who couldn't make it work. That honesty without bitterness shows just how far she's come in her healing journey. She respects the past, but she's no longer trapped by it. She's not defined by being Joong Ki's ex-wife. She's defined by her strength, her grace, and her courage to keep moving forward. Lovely viewers, this continuation of her revelation gives us something precious. Perspective. It teaches us that silence and truth both have their place. It teaches us that love can be real, even if it doesn't last forever. It teaches us that struggles behind closed doors are more common than we think, and that by sharing them we create connection. And most importantly, it teaches us that even in heartbreak, there is dignity, growth, and hope. So, as we keep following Hye Kyo's journey, let's remember to carry these lessons with us. Let's remember to check on our loved ones, to ask if they're okay, to listen when they're silent. Because sometimes behind the brightest smiles, there are struggles we cannot see. And sometimes, giving someone the space to finally speak can be the greatest gift we offer. Lovely viewers, if you were sitting with Song Hye Kyo today, what advice would you give her for her future? Would you encourage her to keep speaking her truth? Would you remind her that love can still find her? Or would you simply thank her for her courage? I'd love to hear your thoughts, because this isn't just her journey. It's a conversation that touches us all.